I just wanted to, for everybody, make it really clear what the sort of normal course might feel like, especially if it happens to hit your family. So in the very beginning, you won't have any symptoms for the first day or two. However, you might still be contagious, even though you don't know you have the virus yet, especially towards the end of that period.
Remaining contagious is precisely what happens when you get vaccinated with these new, live, man-made, laboratory-created viruses. In fact, children shed that virus, H1N1 recombinant, for up to 3 weeks following vaccination, then potentially causing this to be a risk for other children who could potentially get the flu from vaccinated children. What's worse, because other flu viruses are circulating, including H5N1, the vaccines really pose a threat for producing far greater pandemics. Then what?
On day 3, you'll start getting those classic bodily aches and pains that make you wonder if maybe you have the flu. By day 4 through 6, you've got a cough, sore throat, vomiting, and diarrhea, all of which can be part of this constellation of symptoms.
Cross-reactivity to this new virus is precisely what you would want to get by nature. All flus are actually great. The flu, like a good cold, literally prompts the immune system to begin to defend itself and build its strength against future flus of all sorts of varieties of genetic material. And the coughing and sneezing is a purging. It's a detoxification reaction to all the mucus agents, all the materials, all the poisons, all the toxins, the chemicals, and the mucus formed from the milk products, the dairy products, and those proteins that should never be consumed by humans. They're cows, for goodness sake. They should be giving their milk to other cows, not humans. And that, as a result, we literally purge these things with a good cold and a flu, and then develop lifelong immunity. The reality is that by injecting foreign genetic materials and proteins from new man-made laboratory viruses, such as the case with H1N1 flu vaccines, then you literally rob the human body, the sovereign spiritual temple, from one of the God's greatest gifts, that is natural immunity against infectious diseases.
And finally, and this is really, really, really important, day 7 through 10, you'll either get better or you'll start having more breathing problems.
And the subsequent latter group that has breathing problems typically get put on other medications. The Pneumovax vaccination by the Merck Pharmaceutical Company, another profit maker for the Merck Company. That's what people are given, as well as all of the drugs that cause all of the side effects that sends them back to their medical doctors for other pills. It's a snowballing effect leading to an early grave.
Folks oftentimes wait too long before they seek medical attention, and there's some pretty clear warning signs that which should really get you going straight to the emergency room. So I took the liberty, after polling a few experts, to write these down for you. You want to see a doc if you're having trouble breathing, if you've got dizziness or confusion as part of the symptoms, because it's possible that your blood pressure is low, and one of the ways you'll know that is because you won't be able to think quite right. And of course, if you're vomiting so much that you can't keep fluids down. For kids, you have those issues also, but to be more concrete about it, if they're breathing really fast, that's why they can't get their breath all the way in, so they're just going to take lots of small breaths. If they've got bluish or gray skin color, again, it's a sign that they're not doing so well. You want to take them to an emergency room. And this is an important one. If it seems like the child is getting better, but then gets worse again, that's a sign that you have one of the complicating factors surrounding swine flu, and those are the kids ought to be seen early in the emergency room. Of course, if you can't awaken the child, that's sort of the classic sign we look for of a child who's not doing well. Those non-responsive kids urgently have to go to an emergency room. But I want to now transition a little bit and talk about prevention. What can we do to protect ourselves and our families from this potential epidemic, this probable epidemic? And we're going to talk about prevention with Dr. Greg Poland. He's from the Mayo Clinic. He's one of the nation's leading vaccine experts.
Yeah, Dr. Oz, this is really an important point here, and that's prevention of complications. And we prevent those in the infection by giving vaccine.
What do you think happens when people get injected, particularly children and infants, with foreign genetic materials and proteins that cause immune responses that are associated with autoimmune tragedies, long-term chronic diseases? In most cases, illnesses don't come out immediately. It takes generally months and years for illnesses to come out. Unfortunately, the safety scan testing that they're doing involves only 6 weeks of study. And most of these illnesses, autoimmune diseases, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, lupus, Guillain-Barré, come out months after and typically even years after the injection of these hideous toxins.
Well, so everyone's sort of clawing right now at the system trying to find out how to get their vaccines. What takes so long?
It's very similar to what we do with seasonal influenza vaccines. A new strain is identified, and then there's all kinds of testing that occurs. Then it goes into clinical trials, and we ensure that it's safe in people, that it actually does produce an immune response that's protective.
Dr. Greg Poland has been at war with the microbial world virtually his entire adult life. This is not a bad man. Most of the doctors in practice are not bad people. You have to ask the question, how is it that these people who go into medical school to do something that's so wonderful, help people heal? The answer is medical education. If you really study it as a behavioral scientist might, you realize it's virtually identical to any cult hazing process. Trauma-based education and learning under severe pressures, peer pressure, authority figures, lack of sleep, sleep deprivation and stress induction. That's literally traumatization, and that is cult indoctrination. At the end of it, people trust you as a medical deity, and yet you know virtually nothing about good nutrition, nothing about the whole bio-spiritual dynamics of what a human being really is. If you think about what a human being is, most people will tell you we're spiritual beings first. We manifest in the physical because of, in fact, processes called electrogenetics, sound and light signaling that goes on in cells, subtle connections and communications that the medical world doesn't investigate and never learns about. So, if you're a spiritual being first and a physical being thereafter, why would you focus all of your attention in the chemical world and be servants of a drug-intoxicating medical world? It is the alternatives that are being grossly neglected, not only in this program, but in all of healthcare reform. And when you study who's behind not just this program, but all of healthcare reform, it comes down to the same players. The Rockefeller Partners for New York City, Partnership for New York City, this drug cartel, the most advanced biotechnology organization in the world, has the control over not just Dr. Oz, but also all of healthcare reform.
Now remember, everybody in the audience is getting one of these flu shots, so we all get it.
The other tragedy is this concept of mandatory vaccinations. Hospital workers, first responders, people everywhere, including students at schools, are being told that they must get this vaccination, or else they won't go to work, they won't go to school. What a hideous tragedy and a violation of the First and Fifth Amendments of the United States Constitution that allows for people equal protection under the law to observe religious and spiritual convictions to maintain blood purity. Don't allow your children to get injected with foreign materials that intoxicate the blood. Observe the standard hygiene laws that even in the Old Testament. Unfortunately, that second most powerful blessing that the Creator's ever given humanity, freedom of will, free choice, in this case is being undermined by the Partnership for New York City, Rockefeller et al., Rupert Murdoch, Thomas Schlosser, Lloyd Blankfein, and others who are engaged in this literal drug ring.
I'm just going first.
Okay, you ready?
Oh, it's just the alcohol. It's just the alcohol.
Take a deep breath.
I want to thank you and to all of our experts for joining us today.
So with all of this information, where you can really see the forest of reality through the trees of deception, Dr. Oz's taking a vaccine here is likely not really happening. He's probably getting a saline solution in his arm. Of course he would. Why would I say that? Because if you study his own work, his own book, he talks about how important it is to look at the ingredients in everything that you put in your body. And incredibly, the vaccines today, the flu vaccines in particular, are not including the ingredients list in their package inserts. To find the ingredients, a researcher literally has to go into their patents And when you look at their patents, then you see the truth. You're being injected with the most hideous garbage that you can't even imagine in your worst nightmares. I sincerely doubt that Dr. Oz, the fraud that he is going to allow his body to become impurified in that way. Given everything that I've said and shown about Dr. Oz, I urge everyone viewing, please don't allow yourselves or your children to get vaccinated. Do your due diligence. Begin to research what is really in these vaccinations. You would be appalled when you really find the truth that shall set you free.